Good morning and welcome to the South Carolina Public Service Commission. Today is Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, approximately 10 a.m. And we're here today concerning dockets 2025-57E and 2025-59E. All commissioners are present in the hearing room. Ms. Westner Hill, would you please explain the docket before we proceed?
Yes, sir, and thank you, and good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, and all those who are joining the Commission today in the hearing room or virtually. This is a proceeding in dockets number 2025-57E and 2025-59E. These dockets were combined for hearing purposes, and they concerned two applications filed on February 12, 2025. One application was filed by the South Carolina Public Service South Carolina Public Service Authority, also known as Santee Cooper, and it is docket number 2025-57E. The other application was filed by Central Electric Power Cooperative Incorporated, and it is docket number 2025-59E. In its application, Santee Cooper seeks from the Commission a certificate of environmental compatibility and public convenience and necessity for the construction of two 230 kilovolt single circuit transmission lines and associated facilities in Berkeley County, South Carolina. Central Electric Power Cooperative seeks from the Commission a certificate of environmental compatibility and public convenience and necessity for the construction of two single circuit 230 kilovolts feeder transmission lines and associated facilities originating at the proposed Cypress switching station and terminating at substation designated as MNK substations that will provide service to a member of Berkeley Electric Cooperative in the Mount Holly Industrial Park within Berkeley County. These applications were filed in accordance with the requirements of the South Carolina Utility Facilities Siting and Environmental Protection Act found in Chapter 33 of Title 58 of the South Carolina Code of Laws. This hearing was scheduled and noticed by the clerk, and the parties also published in the newspapers of general circulations as required by the rules and procedures of the Commission. The hearing, as noticed, begins today, as the chairman mentioned, on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, beginning at 10 a.m. and continuing until concluded or otherwise ordered by the chair. Mr. Chairman and other members of the Commission, the dockets are in order.
Very good. Thank you very much. Now would the parties please introduce themselves, beginning with Santee Cooper.
Yes, sir. Megan Driggers, in-house counsel with Santee Cooper.
Steve Palger with Santee Cooper.
Okay.
A little rusty there, Mr. Chairman.
You're doing all right.
Frank Ellerby and Court Walsh here from the Robinson Gray Law Firm for Central Electric Power Cooperative.
Thank you very much. And the Office of Regulatory Staff.
Stig Rasmussen and Donna Rainey.
Thank you very much. Before we go further with any testimony or any issues that we need to address, parties can take turns with that.
Yes, Chairman Powers, two things. First, we'd like to move into the record initially, if that's acceptable to you. The first hearing exhibit as the application, Santee Cooper's application, with exhibits B through D as one hearing exhibit, and perhaps the environmental report that accompanied our application as Exhibit A as hearing Exhibit 2, if that's acceptable.
All right. The pre-filed exhibits of South Carolina Public Service Authority identified as the application, and it would be put in as number 1. As to the accompanying dockets or accompanying exhibits, they would be exhibit number 2.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is there any objection from any party?
No objection from us.
No objections from Office of Regulatory Staff.
Number 2 is just Exhibit A, and number 1 is the application plus B through D.
Okay. Just to get it straight, number 1 is exhibit B through E, and the application, and exhibit 2 would be the exhibit A.
Yes, sir. We only have exhibits B through D, though.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. B through D.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're getting there. Mr. Ellaby.
Are you finished?
I also wanted to note that we filed a motion. We included with our application on February 12th, 2025, a request to begin initial clearing and construction pursuant to South Carolina Code Annotated 5833-110-7. And we filed, per the advice of Commission Counsel, we filed a motion on May 5th, a separate motion requesting permission to begin initial clearing and construction on the project. And if it's acceptable to the commission, we'd like to address that motion after the commission has had an opportunity to hear from the witnesses and answer, have the witnesses answer questions.
That's fine. Any objections from any parties? Hearing no objections, Mr. Ellaby.
Mr. Chairman, I am reporting. We also filed a motion in January, asking for permission to begin construction early. The commission issued an order by directives that served as the order February 19th, 2025. It was order number 2025-127 and required us to notify the commission when Berkeley County had issued its permit and told us not to begin until Berkeley County issued its permit approving of the construction that we were asking the commission to allow us to get started on early. Last night at 3 a.m., our witness, Mr. Ware, got notified that Berkeley County had approved the project and Department of Environmental Services has also approved it, which I don't think at the time we filed the motion, we knew that that was part of it. But we're not ready yet to start on that, and Mr. Ware can speak to it and answer questions. But they will be issuing a permit shortly, we are told. And only when we get that will we notify the commission that that's all been done, and we will then proceed to start in compliance with the order 2025-127. And again, Mr. Ware will be testifying for us and can give you that background rather than getting it from the lawyer. So that's just an update. We also have, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Walsh and let him explain what exhibits we would like to get in the record right now.
All right, sir.
I apologize, Mr. Walsh has straightened me out. That was the order I cited was the confidentiality order, the order that approved our commencing construction was issued on March 20th, 2025.
All right, sir.
Still commission still acted with dispatch a lot quicker than Berkeley County did, I'd like to point out. So congratulations
appreciate
to this
that.
group. Yep. And now I'll turn it over to Mr. Walsh to correct any other mistakes that I've made.
Thank you, sir.
Chair Powers, Commissioners, similar to Santee Cooper's request on behalf of Central, we would like to have hearing exhibits marked and admitted at this time. In particular, we have two hearing exhibits that will be next in order. I believe that they'll be 3 and 4 respectively. One, to have our application in its entirety marked as the next hearing exhibit, minus the environmental report, which is Exhibit B. So in other words, next hearing exhibit would be the application plus exhibits A, C, D, and E would be one consolidated hearing exhibit 3, I believe. Moreover, hearing exhibit 4 we would request to have admitted at this time is the complete environmental report with its own exhibits as the next hearing exhibit in order, and I think that'll be number 4. So to recap, we would move to have exhibits, the next exhibits in order marked and admitted into the record and admitted into evidence in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The pre-filed exhibits of Central Electric Co-op and the full application exhibits A, C, D, and E will be placed into the record as exhibit number 3, and number 4 will be exhibit B, which is the full environmental report.
Thank you, Chair Powers.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Commissioner Belson.
Mr. Walsh, isn't one of those exhibits confidential?
It is, yes, and pursuant to the confidentiality order, in particular, it's Exhibit A, the contract that is referenced. We would simply ask that its confidentiality be maintained pursuant to the Commission's previous order.
The confidentiality shall remain as long as necessary.
All right, thank you.
Anything further before we begin?
Yes,
All right.
Chair Powers. I just wanted to note that Office of Regulatory staff filed a no objection letter to Santee Cooper's motion this morning. I provided Ms. Wessinger Hill copies of that letter for the commission.
I have it in front of me. Thank you very much, Ms. Rainey.
You're welcome.
All right, anything further before we begin? Okay, floor is yours.
And good morning once again, Chair Powers, Vice Chair Williams, and members of the Commission. Again, Megan Driggers, in-house counsel for Santee Cooper. By way of background, on February 12th, 2025, Santee Cooper filed an application for a certificate of environmental compatibility and public convenience and necessity for the construction and operation of the Jeffries to Cypress 230 kV and Cypress to Carnes 230 kV lines and associated facilities pursuant to South Carolina Code Annotated, Section 583310. The docket was consolidated for hearing with docket number 2025-59E, which covers Central Electric's portion of the project on the same property, an industrial property owned by a consumer. Santee Cooper intends to introduce 2 witnesses, Mr. Wei-Jin Kong, Santee Cooper's manager of transmission planning, and Mr. Alan Conger, an environmental consultant with Sargent and Lundy. Mr. Conger will testify regarding environmental impacts for both Santee Cooper's project and Central's project. The intent is to allow the witnesses to testify as a panel with Central's remaining witness for efficiency purposes. And at this time, we'd like to call to the stand Mr. Wei-Jin Kong.
We can put up the whole panel at one time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Gentlemen, come forward then, all 3, Mr. Ware and Mr.
Yeah,
Conger.
and Central would like to call Chris Ware also.
All right, sir.
You would raise your right hands, please. Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
And Mr. Kong, can you once again state your full name for the record?
Wei-Jin Kong,
By whom are you employed and in what capacity?
Santee Cooper, Senior Manager of Transmission Planning.
Did you prepare or cause to be prepared under your supervision 7 pages of direct testimony pre-filed on February 25th, 2025?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any changes to that testimony?
No, I do not.
If I asked you the same questions today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, Commissioners, I request that the direct pre-filed testimony of Mr. Kong be admitted into the record as if given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Mr. Kong will be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Mr. Kong, do you have a summary of your direct testimony?
Yes, I do.
Could you please provide that at this time?
Yes. Good morning. Chair Powers, and member of the Commission. As noted, I am Wei-Jin Kong, Senior Manager of Transmission Planning at Santee Cooper. In this proceeding, I submitted direct testimony on behalf of Santee Cooper. My direct testimony outlined my educational background and my 20 years of experience at Santee Cooper, involving transmission substation operation, system operations planning, and transmission planning for Santee Cooper's transmission system. I also coordinate with neighboring utilities and regional entities in current and future transmission reliability needs. My direct testimony was intended to discuss the need for the construction of the Jeffries to Cypress 230 kV line and Cypress to Carnes Crossroads 230 kV line and associate facilities in Berkeley County, South Carolina, and to give an overview of the proposed project. These lines will support service to a consumer of Berkeley Electric Cooperative, which is a member cooperative of Central Electric Power Cooperative, Inc. Both Santee Cooper and Central have responsibility associated with the construction of the 230 kV lines to provide 230 kV facilities to provide electric service in the quantity and configuration necessary to meet the needs of the consumer. The Santee Cooper portion of the project will include folding the existing Jeffries to Carnes 230 kV line into a new Cypress 230 kV switching station to be designed and constructed by Santee Cooper. These lines will be established as the Jeffries to Cypress 230 kV and Cypress to Carnes 230 kV lines once they're constructed and terminated at the Cypress 230 kV switching station. Central's portion of the project will include two 230 kV feeder lines from the Santee Cooper Cypress 230 kV switching station to Berkeley Electric Cooperative's M&K substations. The details will be covered by Central's witness. The need for the project is driven by the reliability requirement and demand for additional service under agreement for construction of electric facilities between Central Berkeley Electric Cooperative and its consumer. The agreement states the consumer plans to construct the data center, and Berkeley and Central are to arrange for construction of facilities to serve the data center. These facilities are necessary to meet the requirements of the consumer and provide electrical capacity needed to serve the consumer demand reliably. Alternative transmission solutions using 115 kV facilities in the area to serve this consumer were evaluated, and we determined that alternative was not feasible without additional 115 kV transmission upgrades and constructing a new 230/115 kV substation and multiple 230/115 kV transformers. The existing consumers served in this area already utilize a large portion of the 115 kV line's capacity. Therefore, the alternative solution required new 115 kV transmission construction and new 230/115 kV substation to provide the sources of the transformation needs. In addition, this alternative would have potentially required additional rights-of-way. The proposed Jeffries to Cypress and Carnes to Cypress 230 kV lines will provide electric service in a quantity, configuration, and reliability requirements of the consumers, utilizing a majority of the existing right-of-way while minimizing impact to existing transmission facilities. The latest estimate to construct the project is $35.2 million, which will be funded by the consumer. The target in-service date for this project is December 1st, 2025. On behalf of Santee Cooper, I request the Commission to issue a certificate of environmental compatibility and public convenience and necessity for the construction and operation of the Jeffries to Cypress 230 kV line and Cypress to Carnes Crossroads 230 kV line and associate facilities. This concludes a summary of my direct testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Kong. And Mr. Conger, could you once again state your full name for the record? My name is Alan Conger. And by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I work for Sargent & Lundy. I'm a senior consultant for that firm.
And did you prepare or cause to be prepared under your supervision 8 pages of direct testimony previously filed with the Commission on February 25th, 2025?
I did prepare that testimony.
Yes, and as a note, that testimony was for dockets 2025-57E as well as 2025-59E. And Mr. Conger, do you have any changes to that testimony?
No significant changes. I do want to note that we received additional correspondence from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and the State Historic Preservation Officer with responses to our regulatory inquiries.
Thank you. So any other changes to that testimony at this time?
No.
Okay. At this time, I request the direct pre-filed testimony of Mr. Conger be admitted into the record for dockets 2025 57E as well as 59E as if given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony, Mr. Conger, will be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
And Mr. Conger, did you prepare or cause to be prepared under your supervision the exhibit attached to your testimony as AC Exhibit 1?
I did prepare that.
Do you have any changes to that exhibit?
I do not.
Chair Powers, I'll note that the exhibit attached to Mr. Conger's testimony as Exhibit 1 that was originally filed with that direct testimony was entered into the record as Hearing Exhibit 2 and Hearing Exhibit 4. Yes, sir. And Mr. Conger, do you have a summary of the direct testimony?
I do.
And could you provide that at the time?
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. Good morning, Chair Powers. Certainly appreciate this opportunity, and to the members of the commission. As noted, I'm Alan Conger. I work for Sergeant Lundy. I'm a senior environmental consultant in their environmental group. I currently direct Sergeant Lundy's siting and environmental assessment permitting services for energy projects throughout South Carolina. In this proceeding, I submitted direct testimony on behalf of Santee Cooper and Central, and was a contributing author of the transmission line and substation siting environmental report. My direct testimony discussed the route for the proposed line and substation, the methodology used to evaluate the route, overview of the short and long-term environmental impacts, the impact of the proposed project to rare, threatened, and endangered species, wetlands, streams, and summarized cultural resources studies and a visual effects analysis for the project. The impacts to the environment, if any, from the construction and operation of the proposed project are anticipated to be minor and limited to the immediate area where new structures are proposed to be installed. The project begins at the proposed fold-in at the existing Jeffries Carnes Crossroads 230 kV line. The new Santee Cooper 230 transmission lines traverse east to the proposed site of the Cypress 230 switching station. After that, the new central transmission lines proceed approximately 4/10 of a mile south, ultimately reaching the proposed Berkeley Electric Co-op substations, the southernmost terminus of the project. This project is situated in an area that was previously designated, zoned, and planned as the Mount Holly Industrial Park, dating back to the 1970s. The developer secured the properties for a data center and has applied for and received permits, including coastal zone certification and land disturbance permits. The developer is currently clearing and grading most of the project area as part of the overall common plan of development. On behalf of Santee Cooper and Central, my firm and subcontract specialists conducted comprehensive environmental evaluations, including literature and record search, intensive field surveys, all prior to site grading. We coordinated the project with the Corps of Engineers for Wetlands, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for federally protected species, the DNR for state protected species, and for various other natural resources of concern. The PRT, Parks, Recreation, and Tourism for public parks and tourism issues, South Carolina Department of Environmental Services for various water and other resource regulated by that agency. The agencies responded as follows. The Corps provided a jurisdictional determination for the industrial park site. The Fish and Wildlife provided a concurrence letter for the proposed project based on project commitments by Santee Cooper and Central. The SHPO provided a letter that confirmed that determination of no effect on historic properties would be provided for any state or federal permitting that might happen at this site. The DNR provided a letter that addressed their concerns with various resources potentially occurring on site, especially the state-listed spotted turtle and Rafinesque's big-eared bat. Those are two state-listed species. PRT, we saw no impacts to PRT resources of interest and no reply was received. DES provided a letter that they did not intend to provide comments or participate in the proceedings. The agency letters or lack of direct response appear to acknowledge the minimal impacts of the proposed project. Santee Cooper and Central are preparing a response to DNR to address their concerns with a commitment to appropriate seasonal clearing for species impact mitigation in conformance with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Coordination Commitment. The project was also permitted by Berkeley County Stormwater and the Department of Environmental Services Coastal Stormwater Division for land disturbance permits. These permits were prepared by the industrial developer for the entire development and include the regulation and administration of the areas planned for land disturbance for the transmission and substation footprints. Due to the project location in a planned industrial park, the project will have minimal overall visual effects on sensitive receptors and landscapes. As stated in my direct testimony, the impact of the proposed line on the environment is justified, considering available technology and the nature and economics of the alternatives, as this route minimizes effects to environment, land use, cultural resources, and aesthetics. In my professional judgment, Santee Cooper and Central's decision to use the proposed route was proper. This concludes my summary of my direct testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Conger. Chair Powers and members of the commission, after Mr. Ware's testimony introduction, Mr. Kong and Mr. Conger are available for cross-examination and questions from the commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ellaby?
William C. Ware. I go by Chris.
And by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed with Central Electric Power Cooperative, Inc. as the Senior Vice President of Engineering and Engineering Services.
Now, does that position, does that represent a promotion since we pre-filed your direct testimony, sir?
Yes, it does.
So do we need to ask the commission to allow us to update your testimony?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman and Ms. Wheat, I found two places in the direct testimony where his current position is listed as vice president. And what I would propose to do is to get him to explain, to agree that those need to be modified, and then we will submit after the hearing revised versions that are updated and will be consistent with his testimony today. And that's in my, do you have the testimony in front of you? I see you're looking at the summary. If you look with me at page 2, line 5, says you're employed as vice president, and we would need to update that to be senior vice president, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then on the same page, down at lines 20 through 22, the testimony says you started work with Central as vice president, which is still true. That hasn't changed. And continue, but it then says on line 22, continue in that position presently, and that needs to be revised to say that you continued in that position until you were promoted to senior vice president in May of 2025. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's what we would like to, the correction we'd like to submit. And with those corrections, Mr. Ware, is there anything else in your testimony that needs to be revised or changed?
No, sir.
Okay. And to identify, I kind of got ahead of myself. Did you cause to be prepared 7 pages of testimony that was pre-filed in this docket?
Yes, sir.
Okay. With those changes, if I were to ask you the questions contained in that testimony today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Mr. Chairman, we'd ask Mr. Ware's revised testimony, direct testimony, be entered in the record as if given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony, as correct, it will be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand. And congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of Mr. Conger, before I ask Mr. Ware to summarize his testimony, Mr. Conger, I think you made it very clear what you were doing, but just to be clear, you're supporting the Central application in your testimony along with the Santee Cooper application, right?
That is correct.
Okay, and your opinions about the environmental impact of the Central project being justified by the benefits to be derived from the project applies to the Central project as well as the Santee Cooper project, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Ware, would you summarize your testimony for the commission, please?
Chair Powers and the Commission, thank you for hearing me today. The purpose of my testimony is to support Central's application for certificate of environmental compatibility and public convenience and necessity for the construction of two single-circuit 230 kilovolt transmission lines to connect the proposed switching station and two 230 kilovolt single-circuit transmission lines to be built by Santee Cooper and substations to be built by Berkeley Electric Cooperative for the expansion of Berkeley Electric's member facilities in the Mount Holly Industrial Park. In my testimony, I refer to the work to be done by both Santee Cooper and Central as the project, and the construction work covered by Central's application as Central's portion of the project. Both Central's portion of the project and Santee Cooper's portion of the project are necessary to provide service to BEC's member. Central and Santee Cooper are cooperating on the planning, permitting, and construction of their respective portions of the overall project. Site assessments for the entirety of the project, including the portions for which Central is more responsible, were conducted by Sargent Lundy LLC. Central's portion of the project will require the construction of two single-circuit 230 kilovolt lines between the proposed Cypress switching station and substations to be built and owned by Berkeley Electric Cooperative. Central's portion of the project will be constructed within Santee Cooper-owned property and new right-of-way. Affiliates of Berkeley Electric Cooperative's member have agreed to provide approximately 7 acres of new right-of-way for the proposed Central lines. The project does not involve any railroad or highway crossings. The need for the project is driven by reliability requirements and demand for service pursuant to an agreement for construction of electric facilities between Central, Berkeley Electric Cooperative, and Berkeley Electric Cooperative's member. The agreement recites that Berkeley Electric Cooperative's member plans to expand its existing facilities within the Mount Holly Industrial Park and requires Berkeley Electric Cooperative and Central to arrange for construction of facilities necessary to serve the expanded facilities. Berkeley Electric Cooperative's member has agreed to be financially responsible for all costs and expenses incurred to construct the transmission and distribution facilities that will serve the members' extended facilities. As a result, those costs will not be shifted to other members of Berkeley Electric Cooperative or Central. Berkeley Electric Cooperative's members' existing facilities have brought jobs and substantial investment to Berkeley County. The expansion is expected to bring additional new jobs and further economic benefits to the community. These investments will provide considerable local and state tax revenue as well as other economic benefits. The size and load factor of the data center will benefit all members of Central, including Berkeley Electric Cooperative, by making significant contributions through rates to cover existing fixed costs while directly funding the project to serve the customer's load. This concludes the summary of my direct testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Ware. I have no further questions. Please answer any questions that the commissioners or the ORS may have.
Thank you, Mr. Ellaby. Any questions from ORS?
No questions.
All right. Any questions between the parties as to the between the witnesses?
No, sir.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Belser.
Thank you. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for being here today. Mr. Conger, you mentioned a letter from, I think, DNR that talked about some mitigation procedures with regard to a bat and a turtle.
Correct.
Is that correct? And those are animal species that are listed on the state protected species. Is that correct?
Yeah, both the spotted turtle and the Rafinesque big-eared bat were brought up as particular items of concern for the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources as a result of this project.
And I'm thinking you indicated that Santee Cooper and Central will try to mitigate due to timing or seasonal concerns. Is that correct? I don't know whether it's
that's correct.
reproduction or whatever when they're active or what, but
so there's some overlap between the federally protected species, northern long-eared bat, and the Rafinesque big-eared bat. As far as timing, the maternal pupping season. So
Okay.
what we plan to do is to avoid any clearing. There's only a small amount of clearing that remains on the site. The vast majority has been undertaken by the developer during the proper times. But for the additional clearing that's required, a little forested area around the right-of-way, that we would hold off until the end of the pupping season, and that would accommodate the Rafinesque big-eared bat. The DNR also indicated that they did not have any concerns for Rafinesque big-eared bat because our project did not impact any wetlands, which is known as the typical habitat for that species. So they said if our plans change and include wetlands impacts, that they wanted to hear from us.
Okay. Well, I mean, this project seems to be on a pretty short timeline, that it needs to be completed or expected to be completed by the end of the year. Is that correct?
Correct.
So does this short timeline allow for working in the window of trying to mitigate the pupping around the pupping season?
Yeah, the timing, just so that you know, is July 31st is the end of the pupping season, and you're allowed to clear up until December 15th in the Low Country, and where this particular project is located. So we're very comfortable with that in the context of the project schedule, and it should accommodate well our intended goals for project completion.
And is that the same for the turtle as well, or?
Turtle's a little bit different as far as that season, and what they asked us to do was to look at exclusion and then provide a permitted individual if any of these species were encountered. This project is a little bit different than most of the Santee Cooper transmission and substation projects I work on because it's wholly within the developer's footprint. So they've already conducted their clearing. They have silt fence up. It's been cleared of trees. It has the stormwater installations in place. They're carving out their parking lots and work areas and whatnot. So really there's very little natural areas left on the site that could accommodate spotted turtle. But in our response to the DNR, which is still in preparation, that we are going to promise that we will provide an individual that's properly permitted for any relocations of individual spotted turtles that are encountered. And we believe we meet the exclusion criteria that the DNR has listed because of the previous development on the site.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Belser. Any further commissioner questions? Mr. Caston.
Thank you, and good morning. Mr. Collin, just to make sure I've got this right, on page 6 of testimony lines 13 through 16, where you reference the 5833 180A 1B, demonstrate that energy efficient measures, demand side management, and so forth, could satisfy. And I know the following lines you say would not. I don't know that I've ever said this before, but I guess subject to check, would you agree that that particular portion of the act basically says would not? I mean, I understand, I think what you're saying. I just was kind of reading directly from that particular section.
That's right, Commissioner Caston. Good morning. That, excuse me, the energy efficiency measures and demand side management, renewable resource generation, you are reading it correct. That will not satisfy the needs of the consumer from needing the power demand here to support the consumer's operation at this point.
Okay, thank you. And I know in your direct testimony you talked about the proposed lines and associated facilities would be funded by the customer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And is that customer BEC or BEC's customer?
That's the BEC's customer, the consumer themselves.
Do you know, and I think Mr. Ware, talk about all costs associated. Does that call, if any new generation is required, is that cost included in all costs? Do you know, Mr. Combs?
The cost as stated here is the transmission portion associated with this project. But the generation has been identified that we have sufficient generation for this project, so there will be no additional generation cost.
So no, a new generation is required for this facility?
That's correct.
You agree with that, Mr. Ware?
Yes, sir.
I think that's all I got. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Commissioner Caston. Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Chair Powers. Good morning. I want to follow up on Commissioner Caston's conversation with you, Mr. Ware. We've got a contract with the member, and I know that parts of it are confidential, and I don't mean to be asking anything that is, but would you describe, you've testified that the member is paying for the transmission upgrades and substation. Would you describe a little bit about how that happens, like over how much time? Is it in advance? Is it within 30 days? Is it 10 years from now?
They prepaid the estimated costs of all transmission and distribution facilities that had to be constructed for the project. Should the cost increase on those facilities, it will be based on actuals basis on invoice. So they are constructing an underground portion for sake of timing. Santee Cooper and Central as well. We're not confident that we could complete that in the time frame they were asking. They elected to do that under our supervision. We're going through and evaluating all specifications for the project, submittals, design, the whole 9 yards. But they directly funded that outside of amounts you saw in these agreements for facilities. So
I'm glad you mentioned the undergrounding. Would you testify a little bit about why that was identified as necessary and appropriate from a reliability system perspective?
There's a core jurisdictional wetland that is not encumbered by an old abandoned Lily roadbed. So we're building a underground 230 kV transmission line to underground in one duct bank along that old roadbed so that we do not disturb the wetland area.
Okay. And I think it was in your testimony on the top of page 6 where you talk about proposed facilities serving the interest of system economy and reliability. Would you expand on that some?
Oh, which portion was that specifically?
I think, let's double check. Top of page 6. You know, you talk about at the bottom of page 5, the question is, do the proposed lines and associated facilities serve the interest of system economy and reliability, which is an important factor from a statute perspective.
Sure.
And you answer yes, and then state that this is the case. And I'm just asking you to amplify that a little bit.
Yeah, so we did look at multiple things. We looked at overhead transmission to try different overhead transmission routes to go around wetlands area. As you know, Berkeley County has a lot of wetlands. That was less feasible than this route of going underground. The customer is also directly responsible for it, so that cost is not passed on to consumers.
That's a perfectly logical answer because you've connected my two questions, and I really meant thank you very much for the prior answer. This is more of a big picture, I think, testimony about this project as a whole and not just the underground.
Yes,
so I'll let you have the floor back to answer that more fully, not just about the undergrounding.
Sure. Yeah, so this route was the most economical. It's probably the most direct route that we could have taken. As I said, the customer had agreed to fund that underground portion. Underground is significantly more expensive than overhead construction. The customer is essentially will be funding maintenance O&M costs for that, as well as replacement costs of the underground facility. So none of those facilities will ever go back into being a cost for our members or others within the state. As far as reliability, it meets the reliability requirements for the Berkeley Electric's consumer member. It also does not allow those to be subjected, any reliability issues to be subjected to other members or other consumers on the system. So studies were performed to make sure that we have adequate coverage and that reliability be withheld, or upheld, sorry.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ware. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Any further commissioner questions?
I have one follow-up.
Commissioner Caston.
Burial, and this is just out of curiosity on the buried line, that I assume that's an open cut.
Yes, sir.
And I assume there are requirements for that type line, concrete encased or whatever, and that's done according to some requirement.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it'll be a concrete duct bank that will be we'll have a trench. It will be a poured concrete duct bank with the conduits in it for the underground cables to be pulled through. It will be backfilled with thermal material back on top, and be able to sustain traffic across the top of that as well.
So out of curiosity, what kind of depth do you have to have for those type things?
The depth, I believe, I'm recalling off the top of my head here, I think it's around 7 feet deep. So
Probably going to hit a little bit of water.
We may hit a little bit, possibly. We may have some water evacuation there.
Right. Thank you. That was just my education. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Caston. So hearing no further commissioner questions, any redirect from either party?
None from Central, Mr. Chairman.
And none from Santee Cooper.
Thank you very much. Would that be your case?
We'd like to discuss the motion to begin initial construction and clearing, but we can do that after ORS presents its witness, if that's appropriate.
Let's hear ORS first.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Did ORS, do you have any follow-up questions for these witnesses?
No question.
All right. Well, then present your witness if you would.
Chair Powers, ORS requests a 5-minute break before we present our witness, if that's acceptable.
All right. Tell you what we'll do. We'll make it 10, and we'll start back at 11 o'clock, and you gentlemen are released. Thank you very much. We're in recess. We are back on the record as to the citing case that we are now hearing this morning, 2025-57E and 2025-59E. The applicants have presented their case, and now we will hear from the witness for the Office of Regulatory Staff. Ms. Reddy.
Thank you, Chair Powers. Office of Regulatory Staff calls Donald Shane Hyatt to the stand.
If you would raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Hyatt. Please state your name and occupation.
My name is Donald Shane Hyatt. I'm employed by the South Carolina Office of Regulatory Staff as project manager for Santee Cooper.
Mr. Hyatt, did you prepare a cause to be prepared in these dockets, that's 2025-57E and 2025-59E, 12 pages of direct testimony that was filed with this commission on April 23rd, 2025?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any changes or corrections to your pre-filed direct testimony?
Yes. The address located at the footer of my direct testimony has changed from 1401 Main Street, Suite 900 to 1901 Main Street, Suite 1500.
Notwithstanding that correction, if I were to ask you the questions posed in your pre-filed direct testimony, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Chair Powers, Oris asks that the pre-filed direct testimony of Donald Shane Hyatt be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Mr. Donald Shane Hyatt will be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand with the corrected address.
Thank you. And Mr. Hyatt, did you prepare a summary of your testimony?
Yes, I did.
Would you please present it at this time?
All right. Good morning, Chair Powers, members of the Commission. My testimony provides the results of ORS's review of the application of Santee Cooper for a certificate of environmental compatibility and public convenience and necessity to construct, operate, and proceed with the initial land clearing of two 230 kV single-circuit transmission lines and associated facilities in Berkeley County, South Carolina. Additionally, my testimony provides the results of ORS's review of the related application of Central Electric for a certificate of environmental compatibility and public convenience and necessity to construct, operate, and proceed with initial land clearing of two single-circuit 230 kV feeder transmission lines from the proposed Cypress switching station to substations designed as M&K substations at the Mount Holly Industrial Park in Berkeley County. According to the applications, both projects are necessary to provide service for an expansion of an existing member of Berkeley Electric Cooperative Incorporated, a member cooperative of Central. The proposed Santee Cooper transmission lines would extend approximately 0.3 miles on existing rights-of-way between the proposed fold-in point located between the existing Jeffries substation and the Carnes Crossroads substations to a planned new Cypress switching station. The proposed Central project includes two single-circuit 230 kV feeder transmission lines that extend from the planned new Cypress switching station to the M&K substations owned by Berkeley Electric Cooperative. The proposed facilities are driven by the capacity and reliability requirements of an expansion of facilities for a large member of Berkeley Electric Cooperative, and both projects are necessary to provide service to the customer. ORS's review concluded the proposed facilities may result in minimal impact to the environment and may support the company's ability to provide reliable electric service to the member. This concludes my summary.
Thank you, Mr. Hyatt. Chair Powers, Mr. Hyatt is available for questions from the parties and the Commission.
Thank you, Ms. Rainey. Any questions from either party?
No questions from Santee Cooper.
Commissioner questions? Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Chair Powers. Good morning, Mr. Hyatt.
Hey, good
to
morning.
see you. I have two potential housekeeping sort of questions. Take
Okay.
a look at page 9, and the question in the middle of the paper, the answer you reference witness Wagner's testimony. So it's on line 12.
I think I meant where. Yes, I meant witness where.
Okay.
typo from a couple different projects I'm working on. Sorry.
Understand that totally. Just want to be clear for the record. And then the other one's a little bit more complicated. I want you to look at page 6. And it's between lines 21 and 25, and I'm going to read it out loud and see how this sounds to you. Why don't you read it out loud for us? Let's see how starting with regarding and ending with major utility facility.
Okay. Regarding the requirements of South Carolina Code 5833-180A, 1A, the direct testimony of Santee Cooper, witness Kong, demonstrates energy efficiency measures, demand-side management, renewable energy resource generation, available long-term power supply alternatives, or any combination thereof could satisfy the stated need in lieu of constructing the major utility facility. Where did you ask me to stop? I'm sorry, at the end. Witness Kong also stated the cited alternatives to be considered in South Carolina Code 5833-180A, 1B are better suited for a new generation project rather than a new transmission project.
Did the sentence on page 6 does that make sense to you given Santee Cooper's testimony?
Commissioner Williams, if I may, I think you're talking about line 24 there, where any combination thereof could satisfy, rather than. I think, if I may, witness Kong clarified that
it would not
he
satisfy. Yeah, right.
Would not.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, it would not satisfy. Yeah.
Okay.
Just matching.
Thank you for that clarification. And I think I'll stop at that. Thank you, Mr. Hyatt. I appreciate the clarity, and I hate to have done that in public, but it seemed like the only way I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Any further commissioner questions? Hearing none, any redirect? Excuse me, Commissioner Caston.
I want to make sure I've got this right too as I go through the testimony. You referenced 5833-180A, 1A, and I guess it seems the testimony addresses 180A, 1B. I guess what I want to make sure I understand from ORS's point of view, does ORS agree that both of those sections you referenced, which are 5833-180A, 1A and B, are satisfied to ORS's comfort level or whatever?
Yes. Yeah, the application and testimony meets the requirements.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you. And weren't trying to trick you there, Mr. Hyde. I appreciate that. I appreciate you clearing those
No, I
things up.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Caston. Vice Chair Williams.
First, a note that we did not give Central opportunity to ask Mr. Hyatt questions. I don't know if they have questions or not for Mr. Hyatt.
We do not have any questions.
Do not? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes, sir. And then second, Mr. Hyatt, I do my best to try and read a room, and I wanted to make sure that you feel comfortable with your testimony here today with the, I don't know if you would describe them as corrections or not. I guess they sort of happened in the moment regarding your testimony related to witness
Kong.
Witness Kong's testimony.
Yeah, I'm meant to. I'm just trying to find it real real quick. Sorry.
Take your time.
Because the intention was to match what Mr. Kong said, because I agreed with what he said in his testimony. So as long as that's the correction we're making, I'm just trying to kind of locate it.
Well, I want to be clear. I'm not making any correction.
Or
I want to make
clarification we're making, I guess.
I'm definitely seeking clarification, but I want to give you ample space, time, and opportunity to make any correction that you feel is appropriate, if a correction needs to be made.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Commissioner Bells.
If I might assist Mr. Hyatt and point him to page 6 of Mr. Kong's testimony. And I think if you look at lines 10 through 16, he's quoting the statute, but then his conclusion is in the paragraph starting on line 17, if that may help.
Yes, I got you. I believe what I was attempting to say is, in my direct testimony, is simply that his testimony addresses the issue of whether or not those programs could sufficiently meet the requirements of the consumer, which in his testimony he states they would not. So that's what I was trying to get.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chair. That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Mr. Vice Chair. All right, is any redirect from ORS?
Yes, limited redirect. Mr. Hyatt, I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
Chairman, Commissioner Belzer just directed you to witness Kong's testimony, page 6. I will direct you to line 10 through 16. Are you there?
Yes.
And even though there's not quotations, you were essentially, in your testimony, is it correct that you were paraphrasing that text from witness Kong's testimony?
Correct, yes.
But you've been asked questions from Commissioner Carolee Williams regarding if you stand by what is in your testimony.
Yes, I do.
You stand by what is in your testimony as written?
Yes.
Okay. And one more question, just a second. And additionally, in your on page 6 of your testimony, in the text you only reference, on page 6, you reference South Carolina Code annotated 5833 180 A1A. And then on page 7, you go on to speak about 5833 180 A1B. Just want to clarify, in witness Kong's testimony, he addressed subsection B first, if I'm not mistaken, and then A. But you still agree with the testimony presented by witness Kong as it relates to this topic?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And that's subject to the correction he made on the stand regarding his testimony?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rainey. Any questions based upon the redirect by either party?
No, sir.
Mr. Ellaby? Any further commissioner questions based on the redirect? Hearing none, would that be your case, Ms. Rainey?
Yes, ORS concludes its case in this matter.
All right. Mr. Hyatt, you're excused.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further testimony, or do we now move to the motions of the parties?
No further testimony from Santee Cooper, just our motion.
All right. Well, let's go forward on that then.
As we noted, Santee Cooper, in its application from February 12th, 2025, Santee Cooper requested, pursuant to South Carolina Code Annotated 5833 110.7, to begin initial clearing and construction in the project area. On May 5th, 2025, upon advice of Commission Counsel, Santee Cooper filed a motion, a formal motion, a separate motion for administrative efficiency, requesting that permission to begin initial construction and clearing. Santee Cooper understands it assumes the risk of beginning work should the Commission not approve Santee Cooper's application. ORS noted there's no objection in their letter filed today. The project, again, is funded by the consumer. And Mr. Conger testified about the absence of impacts of the project due to this being an industrial development already. And as he noted, the project is planned around various endangered species and protections and clearing windows. So at this time, we make the request of the Commission pursuant to South Carolina Code Annotated 5833 110.7 to begin initial clearing and construction.
At your own risk.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Chair Powers,
Commissioner Thomas.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir, you have the floor.
I move that pursuant to SC Code Annotated Section 5833 110.7, the Commission find that public convenience and necessity justify granting permission to Santee Cooper to proceed with initial clearing, excavation, and construction as described in this proceeding. Based on this finding that the public convenience and necessity justifies proceeding with initial clearing, excavation, and construction, I move the Commission approve Santee Cooper's request and grant the motion to commence with initial clearing, excavation, and construction of the 0.3 of a mile 230 kV lines. I further move the following: that engaging in such clearing, excavation, or construction, Santee Cooper shall proceed at its own risk, and such permission shall not in any way indicate approval by the Commission of the proposed site or facility. That the approval to proceed with initial clearing, excavation, and construction as described in this proceeding be conditioned upon the receipt of all required permits, and that the approval herein be conditioned upon the work being performed in compliance with all applicable environmental and land use requirements imposed by law, and that Santee Cooper, as the party seeking the relief requested in the application and the motion, and as the party that will own the lines and associated facilities to be constructed, shall be ultimately responsible for the completion of all work in compliance with the Siting Act and all other applicable laws. And that upon receipt of all applicable permits, Santee Cooper be required to file with the Commission and serve on the parties to this docket a notice of construction commencement, indicating that all required permits have been obtained prior to beginning the work described in this proceeding. So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. We've all heard the motion is made by Commissioner Thomas. Is any further discussion?
One question, I want to make sure I heard
Mr.
it right.
Caston.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas, you said 0.3 miles, correct? Okay. And that's an approximate. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Caston. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a roll call vote, beginning with Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Vice Chair Williams.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Carolee Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Belser,
Aye.
Commissioner Caston,
Aye.
and I vote aye. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else we need to address?
Chair Powers.
Nothing further.
Ms. Brainy?
In light of some of the corrections that have been identified in Mr. Hyatt's testimony, the address, the name of the witness, and just confirming that he agreed with witness Kong on that statement, Oris would propose that we file amended testimony following this hearing.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Anything else from any parties? Going. All right. Thank you all very much for both your preparation, your hard work in getting this before us, and wish everyone well to have a good week and a good weekend. We are adjourned.